The scene unfolds on a deserted beach in the cold light of dusk. The waves are gentle and quiet, carrying moisture and distant echoes. A group of dark-skinned, shaggy-haired primitives quietly flock to the shore. They discover a giant creature, a killer whale covered in barnacles, stranded on the wet sand. Their hair and skin reflect the dark, their eyes filled with admiration, mixed with a little fear. All emotions seem to be suspended in a moment of astonishment. A few people approach, touch the barnacles covering the creature's body, feel the roughness, the warmth left by the ocean. They bow their heads, performing a simple ritual, touching the barnacles lightly and praying as if asking for permission. The quiet moment exudes a sacred quality, as if they are facing a sea god awakening. Suddenly, a vibration spreads, the barnacles crackle, bubbles spraying the water, a soft crackling sound echoing. The creature let out a low roar in the blink of an eye.
The antelope struggled in despair as it was surrounded. It was thrown from close-range mark. They hung dried meat on branches.
Like the sound of an ancient sea, the waves grew stronger, the wind swirled up dust and sand in the stormy landscape. The primitive people retreated in panic. Some fell, confused and amazed. The creature slowly stirred, its dorsal fins erect, and finally it slid back into the ocean. The waves crashed violently, as if blessing and sending off. Everyone was silent. In the foreground was a small child, looking out at the misty sea, holding in his hand a piece of oyster shell that glowed faintly blue. The mark of a mythical encounter. The whole scene was immersed in a sacred silence, closing the short but deeply meaningful chain of events. A cold wind cuts like a knife across the frozen sea, where the sun shines for only a few short hours each day. The Arctic Ocean is not a warm place to be. It exposes all the harshness, wildness and antiquity of nature, but it is there that intrepid people, from the Inuit to the Scandinavian hunting fleets, steadily head north. Through thick ice, blizzards and dark seas in pursuit of giant whales and mighty walruses. It is not just the hunt, it is a culture that survives in the primitive harshness. The sails unfurling in the north wind, the oars beating steadily, the wood clanking, the shouts of men in the wind, and the heavy sound of whales emerging from the cold water, all create a fierce, lively symphony. The hunt begins when people spot a spray of water on the horizon. A sign of a breathing whale. The hunters, with their years of experience, immediately give the signal. The bow of the boat changes direction. Hardwood harpoons with metal blades are prepared. This is the moment on which all life, faith, and food for the long winter depend. Once the whale is hit by the harpoon, it roars with a splash, dragging the boat along like a toy. Huge waves crash against the boat, soaking the worn-out animal's skin clothes. The fight can last for hours, even days. The hunter must hold the rope tightly, controlling the formidable strength of the creature weighing dozens of tons. Sometimes, the whale struggles so much that it capsizes the boat, dragging the person down into the deadly cold sea. But the people here are used to that danger. They accept the risk, as an indispensable part of life associated with the sea. After the animal was exhausted, people moved closer. A fatal blow. The whale's blood stained the white ice of the sea. Cheers rang out in the north wind. The whale's meat, fat, skin and bones were all valuable. The fat was melted into oil, used to light the long night. The meat was dried as a reserve food. The bones were used to make frames for houses, tools, or traded with caravans from the south. Nothing was wasted. This was the rule of survival in a place where the cold could kill a man in a matter of minutes. As for the walrus, creatures with long beards and sharp tusks, they were not easy to approach. They lived in herds, often on ice floes or coastal rocks. Hunters had to approach secretly, usually in the early morning or late afternoon. The slightest noise could scare the herd into the water. To hunt walruses, people used bows, spears, or guns, but the blows had to be quick, decisive and accurate. An adult walrus can weigh up to 1.200 kilograms. And when wounded, it can charge back, endangering the hunter. There are stories of men being impaled by a walrus tusk, blood staining their sealskin coats for a moment. After killing the animal, the men work tirelessly in the cold wind and ice. They skin it, cut it up, remove its tusks, and share them with the group. Walrus meat is a valuable winter food, rich in fat and protein. The hides are tanned to make coats, boots, and boat roofs. Walrus tusks, with their shine and durability, were once used for knife handles and jewelry. And were sought after by European aristocrats. These hunting trips are not seasonal. They are part of the cycle of life in the Arctic. Children are taught to recognize whale markings from the time they can walk. Ancient songs, legends of giant whales carrying the spirits of ancestors are sung around the fire. Hunting is not just for food, it is a belief, a responsibility to the community, a way to prove manhood and connect with majestic nature. Modern times have brought engines, iron ships, high-powered hunting guns, but there are communities that still keep the way their ancestors did. Partly because of a belief in sustainability, partly because of a sacred attachment to tradition, while the outside world argues about animal rights, climate change and hunting bans. Arctic people still silently row out to sea, watching the slightest mist in the distance. They do not kill for greed, but for survival. It is something that people elsewhere can hardly understand if they have not lived through a freezing winter. Without light, without electricity, without industrial food, in the bitter cold, amid the endless grey sky, amid the cries of seabirds and sudden snowstorms, only skill, perseverance and traditional knowledge kept them alive. Hunting and butchering them was a cruel but sacred ritual, where blood mixed with snow. The last groans of the animals echoed across the icy ocean like a farewell whisper. When the giant whale stopped thrashing, lying motionless on the cold, steel-like sea, the hunters did not wait long. Time was their enemy. If they did not act quickly, the flesh would freeze, sink, or attract sharks from the deep. Following the blood, the boats closed in on the whale's massive body. In the dim light of the Arctic sun, the large steel blades glowed silver. A few men jumped onto the whale, their leather boots immediately covered in warm, sticky blood. They used iron hooks to dig deep into the whale's skin, tying a rope to the pulley on the boat. The skin was peeled off in large pieces, each time a thick layer of flesh slid off like a red carpet, exposing the milky white fat underneath. That fat, up to a meter thick, was the most valuable part. They cut it into square blocks, loaded it onto the boat, and filled the hold. These blocks of fat would later be melted down, refined to extract whale oil, the substance that once lit up the world before electricity. Whale oil is not only used for fuel, but also as a lubricant for machinery, soap, and even a luxury cosmetic ingredient. But for Arctic people, it is simply energy, life that survives the months-long darkness. After the fat comes the meat. The whale meat is dark red, almost black, with a distinctive fishy smell. The hunters hack off large chunks with axes, blood splattered on their faces and their leather jackets. They do not complain, do not whine, it is the work of their ancestors. And they are simply continuing a legacy. The meat is dried or fermented, depending on the region. In some places, it is preserved in snow and eaten gradually over the winter. Some families chop the meat into small pieces, mix it with fat and berries, creating a nutritious traditional dish called muktik, a rich, chewy mixture that is cold on the tongue but warm in the stomach. The bones, huge, heavy, are left for last. Some are as big as a human body. People use it as pillars for houses, roofs, and handicrafts. Some artisans can sit for weeks carving images of life on whale bones, boats breaking through ice, people kneeling before the whale spirit, the sun rising from the bottom of the sea. For them, bones are where the soul resides. Each carving is a conversation with the ancestors. For walruses, the butchering process is shorter, but no less intense. When walruses collapse on the rocks, hunters immediately approach. They use knives to cut from the neck down to the belly. The thick skin and fat make this not easy. Some animals require 4 people to peel off the first layer of skin. Walrus fat, not as much as whales, is still valuable. People collect every drop of blood, so as not to miss any nutrients. During the famine, blood is also food. Walrus tusks are carefully removed. The long, sickle-shaped tusks are a source of pride and great reward. They were polished, carved, and sometimes traded with traders from Russia. Canada, or Norway, a beautiful tusk could be exchanged for barrels of ammunition, hundreds of liters of oil, or a few reindeer. For hunters, each tusk was a trophy, a mark of a battle with nature. Walrus meat has a distinct taste. It is tough, rich, and sometimes a little bitter. But in the cold weather of -40 degrees Celsius, a piece of walrus meat can help keep the body warm all day. Children are fed the liver, which contains a lot of vitamins A and D. The elderly often eat the skin. Rich in collagen, every part of the animal is shared with the whole community. No one eats alone, because life here is collective. The survival of the whole village. Everyone knows that if a hunting season fails, the whole community can starve. Hunting and butchering whales or walruses is not just a skill, but also the art of survival. A bloody symphony between humans and nature. No one praises death. but they respect it. They thank the animal's spirit before leaving. They burn fat on a small fire, sing a song softly, pray for the return of whales and walruses next season. Outsiders might call it cruel, but in the eyes of the Inuit, the Siberian, or the Nordic hunter, it is sacred. It is an ancient balance, when people take only what they need. No more, no waste, no killing for sport. Every drop of blood spilled is a promise that that life will nourish many others. And so, year after year, generation after generation, the small boats silently set out into the cold ocean. They go, following the ancient blood trail, following the smoke from the burning whale fat, following the call of their ancestors through the ice and snow, to continue their life at the edge of the world.